Hey, Jim Wolf here, and you're looking extra badass today, so let's talk about one of my favorite books, Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. Dr. Maltz was a plastic surgeon, and he noticed something interesting when he was doing his practice. For some people, when they got their procedure done by him and had some kind of a perceived defect removed, a lot of them changed their personality right away. So a lot of people who were shy before all of a sudden became outgoing, and people who were kind of negative before all of a sudden became kind of positive, happy people. But there were a few cases where he would do a plastic surgery on someone, and to everyone else who knew that person, their face or whatever it is had actually dramatically changed, and they did in reality look a lot different and a lot better. But for the people we're talking about right now, they didn't see that they were different themselves, and they couldn't really grasp that their perceived defect had actually been removed. And Dr. Maltz got really curious about that. He's like, why is it that when I perform plastic surgery on some people, their personality changes instantly? And why is it that when I perform plastic surgery on other people, and the rest of us can tell that they look different and look better, why can't that person accept that? And why doesn't their personality change? And in asking those questions, he eventually came upon the self-image as the reason why certain people's personality changed and certain people's personality didn't change. And self-image is probably the strongest lever for personal transformation that I've found as far as changing your behavior. So it's important to have an accurate self-image, but when you make a mistake and you grow from it, or you have some kind of a defect that you get corrected by plastic surgery, or anything like that happens that changes who you are, if you don't adjust your self-image to that new, more positive image of yourself, your personality and behavior is not going to change. So if you want to change your behavior, if you want to change the way that you think about the world and think about yourself, and the way that you feel inside, the way you interact with everyone, one of the most powerful levers you have is the kind of person that you think you are, your self-image. And again, it's important for it to be accurate, but a lot of things that we believe about ourselves simply aren't true. For example, you might have really low math skills right now, but just because you might not be able to do well on a math test in this moment doesn't mean you're not an intelligent person in general. It doesn't mean that you can't learn to be good at math. And it doesn't mean that you're inadequate in some way. It just means right now you don't have a lot of math skills. And so the way that you see yourself needs to be accurate, but you can also create what's called an ideal self-image, the person that you'd like to see yourself as, your kind of ideal for yourself, and grow into it. And I think that's the most powerful lever for changing yourself and changing your behavior and personal growth, is actively creating the person that you want to be and then continuing to grow into that by learning more about how to be that way, making mistakes, and then correcting those errors over the long term. And so I encourage you to create an ideal self-image and then grow into it. And if you've been following me for a while, you know we talk about that a lot. So if you haven't done this already, definitely think about your self-image. What kind of person do you think you are? And think about how that's influencing your behavior. And then the second thing is, forget about your mistakes. If you have a target that you're aiming for, an ideal self-image or your ideal life or whatever it is that's out there, some kind of a goal, you are going to make mistakes and maybe embarrass yourself or have some kind of pain or fear along the way to that goal. And that is all part of the process. Anytime something is going for a target, and in Psycho-Cybernetics he talks about a servo mechanism in kind of like a missile situation where it continually corrects course until it hits its target. And so what he says in the book is that's basically how our subconscious mind is as well. It's a servo mechanism, which means if you have a target that you're aiming for, a goal, your ideal self-image, your ideal life, your mind will consistently go after that goal. And along the way, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to embarrass yourself, you're going to humiliate yourself, you're going to be afraid, and you're probably going to fail. And the bigger the goal is, the more likely it is that you'll fail more. And so what he's saying is that is all part of the process of eventually hitting your target. and that's how we should treat it. So when you make a mistake, when you embarrass yourself, when you push through fear and get to the next level, once you learn the lesson from your mistakes, forget about them. They're in the past now. That's what he's saying in that section. And it's actually related to a really cool study that the University of Wisconsin did a few decades ago. And basically what they did is they took 3 bowling teams and they had them do a practice session, and they videotaped their practice session. And then they had one group not watch the film of their practice session. That was the control. And then they had one group watch film that was only edited to show their mistakes. And then for the last group, they had edited the film to only show what they did well, and the team only watched footage of them doing really well. And what they found was interesting. The 2 teams that watched film of themselves practicing, when they came back for their next practice session, both of those teams improved compared to the team that didn't watch film of them at all. So raising your awareness of what you're doing will improve your results. But the most interesting thing from that study was that the group who only watched positive film of themselves actually improved by twice as much as the team who only watched their mistakes. So yes, your mistakes and failures can give you information along the way to becoming your ideal self and reaching your goals and growing as a person, but it's actually better to focus on what you're doing well and continue to grow in those areas. So when you get information from a mistake you made, incorporate it into what you're going to do next time and then forget about it and focus on the things that you're doing well. And I think that's a really big part of personal growth, because along the way, you're going to feel afraid. Not everything's going to go well. If you're expanding who you are, you're expanding your comfort zone, you're inevitably going to make mistakes. And so it's really important to be able to incorporate what you learn from those mistakes, forget about them, and move forward. And then the last thing I wanted to share from Psycho-Cybernetics with you today is that if you have a feeling of inadequacy, it's most likely because you're living by other people's norms. So you are never going to feel good enough if you're living by other people's standards. And what that means is we need to develop our own standards and live by those. Wherever you get the information for your own standards, it's really important that you internalize those standards and make sure they're your standards. The only way you can win at this game we call life and feel good about yourself in a genuine way and feel like you are good enough is to live by your own norms and your own standards. And that's one of the points that Dr. Maltz makes in Psycho-Cybernetics. So think about whose standards you're living by right now, create your own standards, and live by those from now on, and that will help you feel like you are good enough in a real, authentic way. And that also will help you grow your integrity. And he says in Psycho-Cybernetics that we need to have a self that is accurate, that we think is real, and that we're proud of, that we can express without embarrassment. And so start working on the way that you see yourself and your own internalized standards, and that'll make you a lot more internally strong. And it'll be a lot easier for you to be yourself when other people's norms are trying to pull you around. So keep growing your internalized standards, continue to live by those, and develop an ideal self-image that you really, really feel good about and grow into it. I hope you got something awesome you can take with you today. Go grab this book, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Read it once a year. It was first published in the 1960s, I think, but it's still rated as one of the top 50 self-help books of all time. There's a lot more good stuff in this book that we didn't cover today, so go grab the book right now and have an awesome day. Cheers. Thanks for checking out The Jim Wolf Show. For my best exclusive content, sign up for my awesome free newsletter at jamesdwolf.com. That's jamesdwolf.com. I'll see you there.